on to Spectre. Now, this film happens shortly after Skyfall, and we know that it's probably a few weeks, like a couple of weeks to 2 months after, because M's video comes to Bond after she dies. And that's the chronology. Some continuity is White returns, Mr. White returns, and his age is, again, he's maybe aged 3 years. But it's mostly due to the radiation poisoning that he has, so he can't really hold to Spectre being a long-term after Quantum. Also, Bond and Blofeld, it develops the origin of Spectre is Bond and Blofeld's relationship and his relationship with Spectre, and the origins of, or not the origins of Spectre, but the revealing of Spectre and the revealing of Blofeld, and going back to some origin things. Some more continuity things is we see Vesper's interrogation tape, Spectre's connection with Quantum, the opening credits scene, and when he's looking for Swan in the blown up MI6 building, we see the faces of Vesper, M, Silva, Green, and Lashif. 009 is mentioned. Again, we have the Aston Martin, which again is a old versus new connection to Connery. It's symbolic. We have the Rolls Royce in the desert that connects the Goldfinger. We have the mention of lighter, and then we have a couple things that I want to bring up that are just things to maybe pursue and might be issues in the future. The African man at the table, Inspector, might possibly be Dr. Kananga. Because, and now his name is not in the credits. But my thoughts are, Kananga had an alias anyway, called Mr. Big. So he might be aliased even, in this film. Another one is the German woman at the table. Is she Irma Bunt? Is she Rosa Klebb or Helga Brandt? That's a very interesting connection. But also, once again, her name is not in the credits, or those names aren't in the credits. But there is someone's name who is in the credits, and his name is Francisco. So is that Francisco Scaramanga? And he's credited as being at the table, I believe. Just some ideas to shoot out there. And another thing is the Spectre gunshot. Is that supposed to be symbolic of Tracy? I kind of don't think so, because of the way it's done. It doesn't have a hole in it like Tracy's does, and it's shaped like the Spectre octopus. But anyways, some other things. Okay, now this, moving on to evidence that James Bond is one single character. We have, once again, his mention of being an orphan by Oberhauser. And we also see, now this is what I want to explain, is that when Bond goes to Madeline Swan and he has an interview with her and he's trying to get her attention, to protect her, they discuss Bond's parents, and they say Bond's parents died in a climbing accident. Okay, I don't know why I haven't read this anywhere. I don't know why nobody has connected this. But Bond in GoldenEye has a conversation with 006, Alec Trevelyan. And Alec talks about Bond's parents dying in a climbing accident, making him an orphan. Those two, that connects Craig to Brosnan. Some other simple things are, like I said, I zoom in on paperwork, so I read Bond's orphan papers. His name is James Bond on his orphan papers. His aunt, who takes care of him between his parents and Oberhauser's father, his last name is Bond. So you have these legal papers that have his last name as Bond. You have him calling him an orphan in GoldenEye. You have him calling him an orphan in Skyfall, and then you have Blofeld calling him an orphan in Spectre. Now some will use, some have said in response to me, what about Dr. No? Dr. No talks about Spectre, and that's where Bond hears about it first. Well, no. Here's the difference. Okay, Bond asks about Spectre in the film Spectre. He says, what is this, now it's Q, I think, that says, what is this organization, Bond? And he's like, I don't know. And Madeline says, it's called Spectre. And they're like, okay. That's the first time Bond hears of it. And Dr. No. And just a reminder from the previous films that I've talked about this subject, Bond is a master of concealment. When he's sitting at the table with Dr. No, it's not like the first time he's heard it. He is disguising his knowledge of it as a good spy would do to, like Columbo. If you've ever seen the Columbo show, the episodes where he feigns denial to get more information out. And what does Dr. No do? Julius No says he gives him the acronym. The acronym was never given to Bond in the movie Spectre. The acronym is given to him in Dr. No, so he gains more information about who they are, what they're all about, and what they're gaining. Not to mention that the background of all these films, this is why I brought up the history, that's why you need to watch those videos, is that when Cubby and Harry did Dr. No, was because they couldn't do Casino Royale with Thunderball. And the novel in Dr. No doesn't have anything about Spectre in it, or Blofeld. So what they tried to do is introduce Spectre early on because of the lawsuits that were going on. So that's why it's mixed in there. And they gave room for it to build. They made it vague. It's only mentioned one little small time at the table, and it's given the acronyms, which it's not given in Spectre. So Bond is getting more information out of it, out of No, Julius No. And he feigns ignorance exactly like he did with Deco Henderson and You Only Live Twice, exactly like he does when he's on Goldfinger's laser table. He makes up stuff so that he doesn't die. He overheard Operation Grand Slam. Big deal. But he's got to do those things because he's a spy. Going back to the orphan thing, this just shows that the double O's have real, actual backgrounds. They're talking about Bond's real background. This isn't like multiple guys named James Bond with the same background. There's a reason why they're showing all this stuff. Another connector is Blofeld's eye scar. It's the exact same eye scar as the Blofeld, and you only live twice, so they're making a connection there. They're probably saying, and this is just my speculation, this part, they're probably saying this is how Blofeld gets his eye scar, but he still has hair, and we're going to show you how he's going to go bald. I think, personally, it's going to be in Shatterhand, this next film. I think we're going to see how that happens, but that's just me. Here's another kind of common sense factor. Okay. Blofeld doesn't hate 6 different Bonds. With equal hate. He hates one guy with the same amount. And the same is with Bond. There aren't 6 different Bonds who hate one guy. It's one guy and their equal hate towards one another. That's pretty much it for Spectre. Like I said, though, there's those connections to the other Bonds. And next, I'm going to move on to the next 4 films in the chronology.